Okay. We're ready to close public comment. I have to say that 3 times. I'm going to close public comment. Unless someone would like to talk. Public comment is now closed. Thank you for your participation. Okay. Brings it home. Got any discussion here?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Thank you. We've had many people get up and talk about this, we owe that, you know, that we should pay them so they can make a profit on their land. I didn't see anybody that had gotten notification from the county that barred them from putting their land up for sale at the fair market value. And whether they turn a profit or not, that depends upon what other people think of their property. So, some of this talk that we've had tonight is ludicrous, especially the part that they're going to tax other people to make sure they make a profit on their farm or on their property, growing alfalfa or whatever. To me, come on, that's communistic. That's not the way we do things. You have the property, you own the property, you can sell the property. If you make a profit, more the better. But don't make your neighbors make sure that you make a profit. That's just not the American way. That's my comment.
All righty. Any others?
I would say Gerald a little bit more about the whatever was done a few years ago that recommended doing the 10 acres. What do you know about that?
So we've been apprised of that numerous times, and this has been to our attention for many years. The study was done some time ago. The information was gathered that if there were 10 acres, parcels in the Northfields, if it was more of a sustainable use, could that happen and occur? As we know, Mr. Holt broke it down better than anyone here in the public on what existed down there in the Northfields. How many lots already existed, lots of record, lots of size, and how many homes could already be down there. I believe it was over 100. Yeah, so they're just saying that. Yeah. For people to think that there can't be homes down there already, it just appalls me. People come in here and say that there can't be homes there. It's not designed for that. And then we go down to the list. So back to where I'm at, I'm drifting off here. The study was done, 10 acres was the outcome with everybody on the board. However, it never was pushed forward. It hit a point, and my father was on the planning commission at that time, before that time frame. He since passed, and others have moved forward with it where it stalled. It never made it to fruition. It never came about. But the study was done and said it was sustainable at that. And the lots that were already down there, there's a significant amount of people don't realize that already exists, that could happen. So along the lines, it happened, but it never was pushed to. We spent the money, but we never got what we paid for. We spent the money to have the study, and to come out, right or wrong, whatever way the study read, we paid for that. We wanted that. We had good input from different parties involved. But when the answer came that 10 acres was sustainable, it wasn't the answer that wanted to be heard by whomever. So that's why it went away. So the folks that didn't want to hear it, they didn't get pursued. As we've noted tonight, and I've got everyone's name that spoke and taken notes on everybody's name that spoke. There's a lot of people that have spoken that live on property, that are developers, that had to go through this exact same process. Wherever they live, it had to be rezoned. I've lived on rezoned ground. The gentleman up on Pole Drive lives on rezoned ground. Mr. Ritchie, who's a developer, lives on rezoned ground. His kids live on rezoned lots that he had rezoned. Mr. Holt's kids are here, and he couldn't allow his kids to have rezoned lots because of the laws that stand in place. Breaks my heart, because I grew up in the Northfields. There's one gentleman in this room right now that literally lived in the Northfields his entire life. His entire life. Since he was a pup, still lives there. No one else. We all go down there and do our chores or do our daily walk. It's very, very relaxing. But we're doing it on the burden and the back of a handful of people. It's not right. And we've had the talk that we want to put the money down and do the easements. How many people know what Swanner Park is? Raise your hand if you know what Swanner Park is. The vast majority of them. Swanner Park, to me, is an eyesore. Because it sets out in a beautiful setting. And when I was a boy, I remember how many cattle were out there that the families had out there. It was awesome. They had this big white trail right next to the freeway, shipping season. It was cool to see him bring the cattle in. You know what it is right now? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of weeds with a stream that runs through it. And you know who uses it? Drive by next time and see how many people are in the middle of Swanner Park. It's sad. It's way sad. We have a much better deal going for us right now. Because guess what? People down there walking through the park, they're walking through the Northfields, or they're calling the park with their dogs and exercising and taking in everybody else doing their chores. And everyone says this is a swamp down there. Have you ever dug a post hole in the Northfields? And there's a lot of rocks. There's a lot of rocks. It's sad. I just heart-wrenching. But up to back where we're at, Shelly, I just can't believe that there's so many people that live on rezoned ground, and they're beyond furious. How dare Paul Probst want to rezone a piece of property so his daughter Terry and Butch could have a home there? How dare they do that? That is so wrong. So wrong, because they're looking over the fence telling the neighbor what they can do. It's sad. It's sad. And I know where I'm going to vote when this comes to a vote. I don't know why the plan went away, Shelly, but it shouldn't have. Because we as taxpayers, everybody that paid a tax in here, and hopefully everybody's from Wasatch County, when their tax statement made it to the county, they paid for that study. And guess what? Your tax was misused because it never went to fruition. And that was before my time. And I hope to make a difference. And it's nice when this is the belle of the ball and everybody wants to come and see Cinderella on the big issues. But we're here once a month dealing on the mundane housework of this county. And no one gets a damn man.
Any other comments?
Glad there isn't any emotion involved.
Clear your head.
I've been arguing with myself over this for 3 years, or 4 years. One thing that always concerns me is that we talk about property rights and certainly understand property rights, but in many ways property rights are a myth. They've never existed. The government has controlled the use of property since before our forefathers came here. Our property laws are based on Old English law. Actually, there's nothing in the Constitution that guarantees property rights. There's nothing in the Bill of Rights that guarantees property rights. It's always been regulated. George Washington lost his fortune because the government decided that he couldn't keep Virginia and took it away from him. So that doesn't mean that people don't have a right to do things with their property, but we have to understand it's always been regulated. It's always been regulated partially for the common good of the group, partially for political reasons. You know, the list goes on and on. So this argument about property rights is a hard one. It's one that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years and has never been resolved, unless my learned attorney colleague disagrees with that. So we think about this. I think about it in two different ways. One way is one of the things that really impacts me is this idea of inheritance. It's a concern, although in my experience of dealing with lots of people who have had children that they want to give their property to, it's about a 50-50 chance. Well, I'd say more than that. It's about a 25-75 chance that the kids just sell it. They'd rather have the money. So how big an important thing is it? I don't know. I'm just speaking from my own experience with the people that I've dealt with and been with. My own neighbor divided his property up among his children. It was legal to do it. And they've now all told him they don't want to live there. And so he has put it up for sale. It's now going to go up for sale and probably become a dense subdivision. There are lots of places in the Heber Valley to live. In other words, if you exclude your kids inheriting your property, your kids can still live in the Heber Valley and enjoy your property without having to live on it. And that's an alternative. I'm not saying it's a good alternative. I'm saying that's an alternative that people can consider. And the other side of the coin is, and I'm very adamant about this, is I don't think that people should be compelled to do something for the good, the common good. In other words, I do think if the object is to retain open space in the Heber Valley, and the citizens of the Heber Valley find a way to do that. If the way to do that is to deal with the property owners, as has been suggested here, I think most of the property owners would like to retain the open space. That's been my experience in the past in dealing with them. We don't want to give it up. We don't want to give it up. We're compelled to because we need the money, or we're getting too old to run it and manage it or take care of it. Kids don't want it, or a variety of other reasons that they're compelled to give their property up. Nobody really wants to. I lived in the valley for 25 years, and I've taught and have dealt with this for quite a few of those years. And I've dealt with the traditional landowners in the valley, and I don't think a handful of them have ever wanted to sell the property, but have had to for one reason or another. So you tell me, which way should we go? Seems like about 50-50. If I go one way, Laren won't speak at my funeral. He's speaking at my funeral. And Bob won't do the tile in my bathroom, so here we go. It's not an easy decision, but I look at it this way. This is a jewel that we would all love to preserve. If we give it up now, we've lost it. We'll never get it back. If we keep it and try and find alternatives and work it out, I know we've been doing this for a long time, but things are changing in the valley. We have a bigger population in the valley now. We have a lot of people who have moved into the valley that are interested in it. And I think maybe there is a way to generate it, but I do have to say, in order to generate conservation easements and other things like that, a lot of it has to come from the landowners and come from outside. The landowners are the ones that initiate the idea of a conservation easement. And then we look for an opportunity to provide that. Now, conservation easement doesn't mean that you kick anybody off their land. Conservation easement simply says it can't be developed. It can still be farmed, still be taken care of, still be inherited, still be passed on. And the only thing a conservation easement really does is give somebody the taxable value of their land. That comes both as cash and as a tax benefit in most conservation easements. So I hesitate to give it up at this point. The other side of the coin is, this will come up again in a couple of years. Say everything turns over. Commission will be gone, council will be gone, and they'll be replaced by new ones. And so it'll come up again. So the chance to recover the 10 acres is always there. The chance to keep what we have will be gone as soon as that takes place. That's my comment.